What is up, my friends? I hope we're back. I hope we're all good. Apologies for the technical mishaps. We still don't really understand what happened. Did speed checks, did connection checks, didn't seem to be anything that we could see at our end. So we restarted the router, did all the basic IT stuff that we could think of, and I hope things are going to be all right now for this second attempt at our late night agenda. Really do appreciate all of your understanding and your patience, which is something I'm not blessed with. But again, thank you. Hope we're good. Yeah, fingers crossed. And look, I'm sorry for the crankiness of everybody earlier on. I just don't deal well in these situations, but that's not your problem. That's my problem. So, right, let's get cracking. We have a lot to go through, and yeah, I'm going to do my best to go through it for you. So, let's start off with the situation with Will Wright, if that's okay, ladies and gents, because he is undergoing or has undergone a medical today ahead of signing a contract with Liverpool from Salford City. We believe that that fee is less than the money that Arsenal were willing to offer, so interesting times ahead. Do you know what, though? I love when stuff like this happens because the young lad could have had more money at Arsenal and Salford could have had more money on offer from Arsenal. But the youngster decided that he liked the sound of what Liverpool proposed and he's going to become a Liverpool player. So good news on that front. Again, it was confirmed earlier on that, where was it? This one. Fabrizio Romano said, Liverpool agreed deal to sign 17-year-old striker Will Wright from Salford. Arsenal agreed terms with Salford 10 days ago, but Liverpool hijacked the move. I don't think we really hijacked it. You know, we were initially the ones in for him, and Arsenal, I think, came in later and gazumped us with, I think it was 300 grand, if my memory's right, but I'm not sure the exact figure in the end, but an undoubted talent, according to people that I've spoken with, so let's keep an eye on how he gets on. So, Ian Doyle said, Liverpool are considering making a £130 million bid for Isak, and that's the same information that I have as well. But I know the frustration for a lot of you guys in the chat has been about the timing of when this offer may go in. And the truth is, I don't know at this particular moment in time if anybody knows the exact time of when it'll go in. But I do feel it's inextricably linked with the Newcastle move for Benjamin Sesko. If there's any United fans in the chat, I'd love your take on this one. The situation with Sesko, have United backed off there and made a move for Ollie Watkins? Because I'm seeing some conflicting reports. So if there's any United fans in the chat that would be able to jump on and let us know what the situation is there, be much appreciated. Earlier on, it certainly suggested that they were looking to make a move for Ollie Watkins at Manchester United, and that may leave the pathway clear for Newcastle to make a play for Benjamin Sesko. Yeah, I was here before, didn't see a stream notification. You probably wouldn't get one, to be fair, because we started it so late. Well, you get a notification when we go live, I hope. But either way, it was on us. Well, actually, we don't know if it was on us. We just don't know what happened. But hopefully we're good to go. Cam said United's broke and they can't afford Sesko. Well, that was my understanding as well, that they didn't have the funds to match the type of money there that Newcastle would be able to, which we think 80 million euro seems to be the number that RB Leipzig are looking for Sesko. Ooh, okay. This just in from The Athletic, bit of breaking news, said Liverpool owner Fenway Sports Group is in talks with Getafe president Angel Torres about a staged takeover that would add the La Liga club to its portfolio of teams. Now, this was floated a while ago and it kind of went quiet then really quickly. But that would be a brilliant club for FSG to bring into the multi-club model or to have in their portfolio, and it would certainly give us a good outlet to send young South American talent as an example that may come in. So keep an eye on that one. Getafe, FSG, looks like there could be something to it. Right, let's keep going. ESPN Brazil English club asked Real Madrid for permission to negotiate with Rodrigo, said Tendo Weber in the chat. Thank you, mate. We also have a here we go regarding Newcastle, but it's not with Benjamin Sesko, unfortunately. Romano said Aaron Ramsdale to Newcastle. Here we go. Deal in place for the Southampton goalkeeper. Buy option clause included in the deal. A heavy loan fee and salary covered by Newcastle, he said, as per David Ornstein reports. Ramsdale will travel for a medical later this week. So I'll never understand how Newcastle didn't move for Kelleher. I said it at the time when we were selling Queeveen. I felt like Newcastle would have been a really good opportunity, and they've now ended up with Aaron Ramsdale, and nobody will ever convince me that Aaron Ramsdale is better than Kelleher. So yeah, that seems like a weird one for Newcastle, but they needed a goalkeeper. Obviously, they were going for James Trafford. He's today signed back with Manchester City, so they lost out there. Is Jaden Dan staying? Said Nasir. I believe not, but it will come down to fitness, Nasir. So from what I'm understanding and what I'm reading, it's going to be a late loan move for him. And Sunderland have been mentioned, although I don't know how sincere that interest is and if it's still there. But yeah, the thoughts for me were that it was going to be a loan. Sorry, someone said buffering, and I'm just trying to figure out if they're on a wind-up or if it's true. So I don't know either way. But if it is buffering, hopefully somebody will let me know on WhatsApp. Right, let's keep going. Loads to go through. I'm going to go all the way back to earlier on in the day. It's a wind-up. Cool, thank you. Appreciate you. Right, let's keep going. Darwin to stay? I don't think so, Dav. I don't think so, mate. So the first reports earlier on today from Transfer Sector said Ollie Watkins is now Manchester United's first choice striker target, with Newcastle in pole position to sign Benjamin Sesko. Then we had, does anybody actually know this? Because I'm unaware of what's going on here, but Lewis Steele and many others reported that Alisson Becker's departed Liverpool's pre-season training camp in Japan and will play no further part in the tour due to a personal matter. Now, I don't know what the personal matter is, and we may never know, but ultimately, I also read that Alisson is expected to meet back up with the lads ahead of the game against, or the two games against Athletic Club Bilbao that's coming up on Monday. But whatever the matter is there for Alisson, I hope it's not too serious, and I hope him and his family are okay. Then we also had John W. Henry's wife, Linda, accidentally leaking the boys in the Adidas training gear. So she often puts up some behind-the-scenes footage and posts about stuff. And she did it, I'm sure, harmlessly, but it accidentally leaked Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk in the new Liverpool training kit. It looks quite nice, to be honest with you, as well. Should the big Verge take the free kicks now? No, I would say no. I get where you're coming from, though. I mean, I've seen Virgil banging a few up in the Celtic days as well, but no, I think we've got some good options there. Dominic Szoboszlai being one of them. I don't see Virgil coming up to take the free kicks, especially because we want him in there just in case something comes in aerially as well. So it'll be a waste of 6'5" or 6'4". Verts for free kicks, Maka for free kicks. Yeah, some good options in the chat there. It's intriguing, though. You know, with Trent gone, there's certainly a few things that are up for grabs this season. Be interesting to see who continues to take the corners as well on both sides. Will the likes of Kirkes start to take them on one side? Maybe we get Frimpong taking them on the other side, or will the likes of Alexis McAllister or somebody like that go out to take them? Right, where are we? This one from Ode Aloha said, how will the formation look like? I don't know. There's been talk of a 4-2-3-1, but ultimately, I don't know if we know the formation, and I don't know if there is going to be one single formation either, because it could depend on the opposition, how they line up, how the game is going. You know, I think sometimes as fans we get a little bit too caught up in formations and stuff like that. A lot of the time they're fluid. So the loan fee for Ramsdale there, according to Alex Crook, is £4 million loan fee for Newcastle, paying Southampton for Aaron Ramsdale with that option to buy at the end of it. Craig, I have a question. I want Isak so bad, but there is a little part of me that thinks it will halt the development of Ugo and now Will. I understand the frustration, but I don't see it personally. We have to work for the here and now as well. And look, we are building for the future, and the likes of that youngster we brought in from Salford. But we can't not play in the here and now, and we can't not focus on the here and now as well. And the whole point of bringing in the likes of Ekatike and Isak is to win stuff right now. And I think we'll see times where both of them are on the pitch if Isak comes in. Maybe Ekitike drifts out to the left, as somebody very succinctly put the other day as well in the comments. Isak's often played out on the left side for the Swedish international team. So, again, don't get too caught up in it. I find it a little bit funny that sometimes we're talking about, not enough signings, and then when we make some signings, there are people thinking we've made too many signings, or that it's going to stop this or that. Ultimately, just enjoy what's happening. And one post today from a journalist that really, really caught my eye was this one that I'm going to read out to you now in a second. I just want to find it first. So many posts today. So this from Lewis Steele really, really caught my eye today. And it said, a noticeable part from Liverpool's open training session was the sheer intensity that the lads were training at. He said it was 36 or 37 degrees Celsius and the players were still racing and sprinting around. The intensity they were bringing for a training session was, in his words, mental. But that's a good sign. That tells us that these boys are getting ready and sharp for the season ahead. And also from Lewis Steele, Darwin Nunez looked incredible, according to Lewis Steele. In training, he looked every part the £80 million striker that Liverpool paid for. So let's wait and see. But like I said, he's going to move on. And it will probably be to Saudi Arabia, unless Juventus change their mind on Kolo Muani, because there's been some links today for Darwin Nunez and Juventus, but they believe Kolo Muani is going to be the one that Juventus really want, and that any bid for Darwin would be probably a loan offer with an obligation to buy, and I just can't see that one happening. I can't see Liverpool looking for a loan unless it's desperation times at the end of the window. And honestly, I'd probably rather keep him around than loan him out. And that's, I still think he's going, by the way. I still think he's getting sold, but I just don't like the idea of loaning him out. It's just, why not keep him around if you're not going to get a transfer fee for him? This one from Edwin said, I don't think Slot is stuck on one formation, nor do I. And it's also really difficult to get a read on him from last season, because last season he didn't want to change too much. We had Jurgen's squad, a very good squad that won the league, but he didn't want to tinker too much with it. I think this year, as he starts to bring in players that, like Wirtz and Ekitike and others, who he thinks that can maybe play the style of football that he really wants, I'm wondering, did we see a little tweak in the way that we play this season? I'm expecting it, to be honest. Certainly, I think we'll play through the lines a lot more. Keon Ruffin, apologies if I've mispronounced my friend, and thank you, said, if we get Isak, sell Nunez and Chiesa, who rotates on the right with Salah? Seems like we're lacking on the right. I'm guessing Frimpong, and it is a guess at this point, but I'm guessing Frimpong. Dominic Szoboszlai could obviously drop out there as well. But at this moment in time, I think Frimpong. And remember, we don't necessarily have to play Gakpo left and Young Rio left. There's nothing to say that they can't drift across and have a go on the right-hand side. Football's a little bit obsessed with inverted wingers these days. But, back in the old days where a winger went round the outside, you never know. So I would say fair point. But whoever we bring in is knowing that they're going to be on the bench a lot of the time, because, that right position is Mohamed Salah's. Craig, Super Chat got lost. Can you reread it below? I don't have access to it anymore. I'm really sorry, mate. I don't have access to it before from the last one, because it's a new setup for us and everything refreshes on the back end system. So I'm really sorry. I wish I could read it out for you, but I don't have it to hand. Craig, the system we now play is meant to give us more structure in defence, but I feel we concede far too many careless, leaky and preventable goals. Again, a change of personnel may help with that, the real Johnny Sins. So we know that Trent used to vacate a lot of space when he was playing in the right back position and he drifted into midfield. And to be fair, Ibrahim Konate was pretty adept at dropping across the cover. Then you would see a lot of help from the likes of Dominic Szoboszlai as well. But what I found frustrating was the amount of sideways stuff we played across the back line last season and then just pinged one into the channel or tried to fight for a second ball. I don't think that's the style of football that Arne Slot really wants to play, and I expect us to be a lot more Pep Guardiola-esque in the style of the way that we set up to play. I think that's where you're going to see Florian Wirtz really change things for us, because when we played a low block previously, it was always our Achilles heel. Now, when you've got players like the likes of Ekatike, who's not afraid to dribble or flick one round the corner, Florian Wirtz coming in, I think we might be more adept at picking the lock as well when we come up against the low block. So many unanswered questions, and I don't think pre-season's really given us too many of those answers as of yet, because we haven't seen the strongest Liverpool team put out there. So that's what I'm excited about. Obviously, Alexis McAllister's been a little bit late back as well. He's been speaking about carrying a few little niggles, and now he's feeling a lot better. So that's good news, and hopefully we can see Alexis go to an even higher standard if that's possible. Zach said, "Are you mad Chelsea got Haddo, or are you not concerned?" I wouldn't say mad, but certainly it's a good piece of business. You know, I've said many times, mate, I would have really been happy for us to sign Jarell Haddo. So I wouldn't say mad is the word, because I trust whatever the club are doing in the transfer market, and I'm sure that they have a plan. And I don't know if Liverpool did try to get Jarell Haddo and he was only sold on Chelsea. If that's the case, fair enough. But yeah, he's a good player, and look, he's going to probably do very well at Chelsea. It might be a tad bit early for one of these moves for Joel Haddo, though, to the likes of a Liverpool or a Chelsea or somebody like that. Maybe one more year in the Netherlands wouldn't have done him any harm. But either way, Chelsea are getting a good player there, and I'm not going to change my mind on that one. You know, that's one thing I hope people always understand about me, is if we're in for a player and they go somewhere else, I'm not going to start revisiting my take on the player. Joel Haddo's a good talent, a very good talent, one that Virgil van Dijk rates very highly as well. So yeah, if Chelsea get him in there, they've got a good player. Asantino, how are we, bro? So, do you think Gravenberg plays deeper this year? Still think he has been a revelation for us? Um, it's really difficult to tell. I don't know, even from pre-season, what to expect. So I don't know, mate. We seem to be persisting, especially against AC Milan, with a very high line. Like, just look how far forward Virgil was. Um, so that was a concern to me, because we've seen how easy it was for AC Milan. One ball around the corner from Pulisic to Rafael, we were opened up very easily. So I don't know if Arne is going to look at that and think, right, the press needs to be better from the front, so we don't give them the time and the ability to turn like that and get a ball in behind. But it is a risky business when you're playing with a high line. Mervyn said, "Hi Craig, hope you're fine and the family. Family are good, thank you, sir. Appreciate you asking. Is it only me who feels that Darwin might stay for another season?" I can't speak to other people's thoughts, mate. I don't see it for what it's worth. I think Liverpool, just like Newcastle, are not wanting to sell Isak now. Liverpool have sold Diaz, so we're probably not going to let Darwin go yet until we know we've got somebody else coming in. So if we get Isak, that may trigger the move for Darwin Nunez. But what Liverpool won't do is sell off three forwards, obviously having lost Diogo as well, and then leave ourselves short. So it's a bit of a balancing act at the minute. We now know Diaz is about to sign for Bayern Munich. He did his medical today. First part of that was done, I believe, at a private hospital. The second part then done at Bayern's training ground. So again, much like we're saying about Sesko and Newcastle, I don't think we'll see Darwin leave until we get somebody ready. Ryan, how are we? Time to annoy Chelsea as well. Attempt to hijack the Haddo deal. Look, I'd love us to hijack the Joel Haddo deal, but I don't have any indication that we're about to do it. And Chelsea have zoomed in on him and Xavi Simons as players that they're looking to get tied up. They're trying to sort out the deal now to sell João Felix to, I think it's Al Nasser, if I'm not mistaken, in the Saudi Pro League. So once they get that tied up, that'll give them a little bit of free place in the squad to go and bring in Xavi Simons. And that one doesn't particularly worry me, to be honest with you. I put Xavi Simons kind of in the Ryan Cherky mould. There's an undoubted talent there, and I'm not trying to say that they're not getting a good player, but I just wonder about consistency for the likes of Simons and Ryan Cherky. So Mark sent me something, and I spoke about this previously as well, where Getafe's president said the club wasn't for sale, but again, these links to FSG aren't going away. So just before we broke up earlier on because of the lagging, the Athletic had put something out to say Liverpool owners Fenway Sports Group is in talks with Getafe president Angel Torres about a staged takeover that would add the La Liga club to FSG's portfolio of teams. And I think for us, this would be brilliant. You know, we often talk together in the chat about the fact that we don't bring in too many South Americans. You see a lot of players going to, like, of Portugal as an example, or Spain. This could do wonders for us to maybe bring in some unproven talent from the likes of South America, put them into La Liga there with Getafe and see how they get on. I mean, we've seen it work for the likes of Manchester City as well. Savinho came across and then moved over to them. So something like this with Getafe and us wouldn't go astray either. And if I'm not mistaken, Getafe's in Madrid, right? I think it's in Madrid. If I'm wrong on that, I apologise. But the reason I'm saying if it's in Madrid is, again, another good city to tempt a footballer and to come across and play in. I don't like us owning other clubs, to be honest. I understand where you're coming from. I do, but I guess it's just the way football's going, isn't it? You know, we see Manchester City and the City group of football clubs. You see RB, Red Bull and all of their clubs, and even Chelsea have relationships and other clubs and multi-club models. So it's just seemingly the way football is going. And if it gives Liverpool somewhere to maybe, you know, test new young talent before taking the leap to the Prem, I think it's probably a good thing. But of course, Getafe fans certainly won't want to be hearing that they're going to be a stepping stone club either. So I guess you got to find somewhere in the middle in some of these scenarios. Marky 989, how are we, sir? Said, I love when Chelsea or Arsenal spend big on players. They're praised as serious. Liverpool does it and rivals cry, they'll flop, they're so expensive. Oh, mate, the amount of people that have told us we've gotten rinsed for Florian Wirtz and that he's not good, it's shocking. And even people with Ekitike, same, you know, fans, clubs who wanted Ekitike are now turning around and saying that Liverpool overpaid and whatnot. It just lets you know that they're worried about us. And they wouldn't be talking about us if they didn't think we're going to be a problem. Isak to Liverpool, get in there, said Paddy Brick. So on that, right, let's talk about Isak to Liverpool for a second. So from my correspondence today and my interactions with some people, I feel very confident in saying that the offer is prepared and Liverpool are just waiting for the right time to send that across. I know Sasha Tavolieri said he's expecting somewhere from 100 million to maybe up to 120. I don't think Liverpool are going to go in that low initially. I think we're going to be going towards the 120 mark. But in all honesty, I wouldn't mind if Sasha Tavolieri was right. You know, my understanding and the information I've gotten today suggests 120 will be one of the first offers. But if Sasha's right and they go in at 100, I understand that as well, testing the waters. But what we don't want is this to become even more of a saga than perhaps it already is. Harrison, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. I've seen people say they would rather Connor Bradley starting over Frimpong. What's your opinion? So, I can understand their viewpoint. I'd be a liar if I said to you I'm not sure what to expect on the opening couple of games of the season with regards to the right back situation. When I've seen Frimpong, he's been more advanced a lot of the time, but whatever Arna wants. I mean, I rate both of them. You know, I think Connor Bradley isn't the finished article, but he shouldn't be at the age he's at. But there's plenty of raw talent there to work with. And Jeremy Frimpong, I don't really know defensively what he'd be like in the Premier League maybe. We know if he was a wing back or pushing a bit further forward, we know exactly what to expect. Great engine up and down that wing all day. But it'll be interesting to see which one Arna does go for. Let's just say for the Community Shield as an example. So let me ask that question. It's a really good question to put into a poll. So thank you for asking it. And bear with me while I ask this one. So who starts the season at right back. So who starts the season at right back? And we will say Frimpong, and Bradley. Cool. So have a little vote on that, and we'll get back and check that one in a while. I honestly don't know. I wouldn't even want to hazard a guess at the minute, because in one sense you've got more experience with Frimpong, no denying that. But also, let's not forget the promises that were given to Conor Bradley when he signed the new contract to stay at Liverpool, that he was rated and that he was going to be given the chance to cement himself in that right back position. So truth is, I don't know yet, but I'm intrigued to find out, and I'm okay with either answer. So if he wants to go with Frimpong, absolutely no issues from my end at that. Same with Conor Bradley, but let's wait and see. Craig, do you see why FSG are so adamant on signing Isak is for him to be Salah's replacement main striker, knowing Mo will definitely leave in 2027? I think it's a very good point. I've often spoken about wanting us to succession plan in advance. And at 25, yes, I can absolutely see a world where what you've said makes some sense. You lose Mohamed Salah maybe in a couple of years' time, and you got to replace that goal burden from somewhere. We may never find somebody who can do Mohamed Salah numbers again, because let's be honest, he's a bit of a unicorn in footballing terms. So maybe the likes of Ekitike, Isak, Wirtz even spreading some of those goals around could be the plan, and I'm all for that as well. You know, you never want to be overly reliant on any one individual. And I remember looking at a stat a couple of weeks ago that said Mohamed Salah was involved in, like, I want to say 53% of Liverpool's goals last season, whether it be goals or assists, which is a frightening statistic. Like, it's really high. Could Frimpong be both Salah and Bradley cover? Of course. Yeah, look, you could make an argument he could play in either position, no problem. Certainly, I would expect Frimpong to be playing in Salah's position the majority of the time the AFCON is on. It makes the most sense to me. And even in pre-season, if you look at the last game that we played, the Stoke game, you can see in the second half, Bradley was playing at right back and Frimpong was playing further forward. So I think Arnes was having to look at loads of different combinations in pre-season. Do you rate Isak as a top 3 striker? In top 3 in what sense? In the world? It's tough to say top 3 in the world and be honest about it. Like, you've got Haaland, you've got Harry Kane, you've got the great Robert Lewandowski. So there are some really good strikers out there. What I would say is, I think and feel comfortable saying that if Isak joins Liverpool, we'll be talking about him in that regard in the next year or two. I think he'll push on even more. No disrespect to the Newcastle players, because they're a good team, like I've said many times, but the quality that'll be in and around him at Liverpool, I really would expect Isak's game to go to another level again. How do I know this bid is real? Source. So let's just talk about that for a second. If it's a fair question you've asked me, I see our moderator removed it, but it's a fair question. Let me just say this to you. I would like to think that so far this summer, anything I've told you has happened. At the start of the window, I told you that Liverpool were going to bring in Frimpong, Liverpool were going to bring in Kirkes, and Liverpool were going to bring in Wirtz. And all 3 arrived. Now, I know in hindsight it's easy to go, yeah, we all knew that. But they didn't. And I told you that was going to happen. I also told you that Tyler Morton was going to be moved on a long time ago. And now you're seeing those bids starting to come in and that happen. So I don't expect you to believe every word that comes out of my mouth. But I'm also obviously not going to sit here and tell you where I hear these things, because then I'll never hear them again. It's a bit of a leap of faith you're going to have to take. But I think I've been on the money this window. And I've always said I'm not the most connected Liverpool fan in the world, and I won't break every story for you. But I've gotten a lot of stuff right this summer. And even some more if I think back around it now. I can probably bring up 2 or 3 more things that I was out with before others. So I'm quite comfortable in my information on the offer, and I've never said the offers went in. I said Liverpool are ready with the offer. Craig, you also said you were told if a fourth signing was coming in, the media had to prepare for it. Yes, and that of course happened as well with Pecci. So, we've been pretty lucky this summer. We've got some very good information, but like I've always said, you're never going to get everything right. But I've always told you to question everything, whether I say it to you or anybody else does. You're always right to look for 2, 3, 4 sources on these things. Is it true Isak can terminate his contract? So let me read that out and explain why I think they've misinterpreted somewhat. So 1 sec, I'm going to read that out to you now because I know the very post you're on about. So anything Liverpool posted to say FIFA's Article 17, which allows players like Isak, after 3 years on contract, to unilaterally terminate by paying compensation equal to the remaining wages, about 20 million for Isak, 3 years left. Newcastle can't stop it, letting him join Liverpool for zero transfer fee. Hold him hostage, Newcastle, I dare you. So they're wrong about some parts of that. So yes, what they're talking about, Article 17 does exist, but there are some parts that they've left out there, which is that compensation could be demanded by Newcastle for future lost revenue from a transfer fee. Also, in these situations, the club that he's going to could face a ban. The player himself could face a ban of up to 4 months. So it's not as simple as just saying, yeah, I'm going to buy myself out of my contract and you're not getting any transfer fee. I don't know whether they're just trying to bait some Newcastle fans with that or they've got the gist of it wrong. But it certainly isn't as simple as our friends at Anything Liverpool have made out there. There must be just cause for it to be considered justifiable. Exactly. So, like, examples that were given were wages not being paid for a few months, something like that. So, yeah, he can't just go, I've 2, 3 years left of my contract, I'm buying out my contract, I'm off joining Liverpool for free, because Newcastle would rightly want compensation. And not just his wages, because they ponied up a very significant transfer fee when they signed him from Real Sociedad as well. Peter, thank you, bro. Appreciate your kind words in the chat. Thank you. Right, I find it hard to believe anything until it happens. Ever since Bellingham saga, did you say we was going to get Bellingham? No, I never once said Liverpool were getting Bellingham. I said Bellingham's open to moving to Liverpool, but like I've said, question everything. Feel free to question me at any point. Nobody will ever get everything right. Football is a very fast-moving industry where I'll give you an example. We'll all agree Romano's shit hot with transfer news, right? We'll all agree with that. But even this summer, I can find you 4 or 5 here we goes that were wrong. And not because his information was wrong. His information at that moment was right. But things change. Another bid comes in late, So even the best in the industry get it wrong occasionally and not always not always their own fault. Craig, do you think this fuss is just Newcastle managing the narrative before they sell? Even if Isak is furious, let's not forget they tried to ship him to Chelsea for PSR last summer. It's 100% a face-saving exercise from Newcastle, but they have to do that. Newcastle have to be shown here that they've done everything. They have to show their fan base that they've tried everything to keep him. But ultimately, if a player wants to move from any club, and we learned this with Coutinho. Now, we ended up getting a great deal for Coutinho, but, he'd signed or agreed to stay to the end of the season and then was going to move on. And then Barca came in January and everything changed. So Newcastle have to be publicly showing to be digging their heels in because they don't want to be seen as a soft touch. Saw somewhere Isak is ignoring calls from Newcastle and some senior Newcastle players want him sold. Just want to know if you've heard anything about that. Not really, to be honest with you. The only thing I'd seen was Kieran Trippier said that I'm always at the other end of the phone. If Alex needs me, I'm available 24/7 for him. But what you also don't want in Newcastle's stance is a player being disruptive or a player bringing down the vibe of the dressing room. And Newcastle need to get cracking with their own business. Like, they've had a pretty bog standard window so far. Anthony Elanga brought in. Then obviously they lost out on, well, 4, 5, 6 players at this point. So they need to get working with their own business as well. At this point, I can't see anything but him joining Liverpool. I can't. Now, I'm not saying it's 100% nailed on to happen. I'm just giving you an opinion. Because we're willing to pay the money. Newcastle are already shopping around for the likes of Sesko, and they're not going to do that unless they want him to come in and be the guy. And the reports today suggest just that they are pitching him. You will be the face of the Newcastle team. You will be the face of the club moving forward. You will be the talisman. Michael, thank you, mate. So, Craig, you're a legend. Thanks for all the content. You've been spot on with the transfers this summer from Bangor County down. I only subscribed in June. Apologies for not following sooner. Well, I'm glad you found us, mate, and I'm very grateful for your kind words and your support. Look, I don't profess to be well connected. Sometimes I get some stuff and I talk about it. Sometimes we don't. But more than anything, I'm just happy as a Liverpool fan this summer. Not that I got stuff right or wrong. I'm just happy with the business we're doing because it's incredible. Incredible. And it's so lovely to speak to so many Reds who are just excited to go into a new season. So, yeah, thank you, my man. Appreciate you, Michael. And lots of love up to you in Bangor County Down as well. Dave said, big thanks, Craig, for making sense of all the transfers every day. Appreciate it. Look, I love reading up about these things. Also, another one I would say we got ahead of anybody else was Canade. We also brought people news of Liverpool going to sign Fabio Carvalho months before anybody else. So we've had some good luck over the years on transfers, but I would openly tell you I wouldn't be as well connected as Redmen or the Anfield Wrap. I would say they are far better media sources than I would. I've always been honest and said a lot of the information that I get isn't from the English side. I'd be better connected in the likes of Germany. Certainly in Spain, I'd have a good few contacts that I could reach out to. And smaller tier agents as well. Right, let's keep cracking. Let's bring in Maguire, 20 to 25 million. Isak is our 9. Mighty Red's all right, though. We don't need Harry Maguire to come in and play Mighty Red. So, Maguire, no thank you. What else was there today? So, this from Alex Crook said, Alexander Isak has been conspicuous by his absence from Newcastle's training ground since dropping the bombshell he's seeking to leave the club. Doubts over Isak's future first emerged when he was spotted training alone before subsequently being left out of their pre-season tour to Singapore with a thigh injury. Isak has not been spotted by film crews outside the club's Darlsley Park training complex since. It is thought the superstar Swede is following his only training programme while at home. Sesko wants Man United to move, apparently. Does he? Not information that I've heard. So, yeah, I don't know. Look, I mentioned the other night that if I was Sesko, I'd jump to Newcastle right now. And apparently that annoyed a lot of Manchester United fans who are doing exactly what they used to banter us about, which is living in the past and talking about United being this huge historic club, which nobody ever tried to say they weren't. The United absolutely one of the biggest clubs in world football, but they're a basket case right now. And if I'm the likes of Benjamin Šeško, why would I leave a club to come into a club that, one, isn't in Europe this year, that has openly been crying poor mouth, sacking off people left, right and centre, and still looking a little bit all over the shop? I just don't see it. I think Newcastle, with where they're at now, with the ambitious owners they have, would be a better prospect for the here and now. So, yeah. That's where I'm at. Right, oh wow. As much as I love Jeremy, you know the disrespect of this poll of the development of Bradley is crazy. How is a poll disrespectful, if you don't mind me asking? Because ultimately, it's just a bit of fun. Where somebody said, Craig, who do you think starts? And I said, I haven't got a clue. And I said, let's ask the chat about it. So it's hardly disrespectful. You don't think I'm going to disrespect somebody from the same island as myself? £130 million, you heard about it, same as the Liverpool fan mentioned a few days ago, that he swore his mate to close the deal. I don't understand what you're trying to say there, Nimrod. Yeah, no idea where you're trying to go with that one, mate, but the £130 million is the upper end of what I've been told, 120 to 130. But I've no idea where you're going with the other Liverpool fan. I don't know who that is. Right. Husker, how are we, dude? Said, hi, Craig. Look forward to watching you as often as possible from Nebraska. Nice. Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken, or is it Omaha? Is Nebraska where Bud Crawford's from? Maybe I'm wrong on that one. Have you heard anything about Robertson? Is he being sold? I thought it was a certainty. Sure, wouldn't mind him sticking around. So I haven't heard anything new to suggest Andy Robertson's being sold. I do want him to stay personally. I would sell Costas over Robertson because I've liked what I've seen of Robbo so far in pre-season. I think he's looked sharp and focused. I think him playing for a potential new contract as well would be an interesting dynamic because, let's be honest, he's a better player than Costas. But, of course, Father Time is unbeaten, so, you know, Robbo's not getting any younger. That's why we brought in, like, a mini Andy Robertson in Kirkes. So I would expect Costas to go, but I haven't heard anything on the likelihood of when one of them might move on. Why don't Liverpool put in a bid for Sesko? Maybe Arnott doesn't feel he's the right type of player for us. I don't know. I like Sesko. I think he's a good player. Double L Lion said, Craig, you're a top bloke and engage really well with the group. Hope you feel the gratitude. Nobody ever needs to have any gratitude towards me, dude. It's a two-way street. I'm very grateful for you guys coming on, giving up some of your evenings, coming and have a chat with me as well. Love doing this. It's a pleasure. Joking about Maguire, concerned about our lack of pace. Well, we're bringing in a bit of pace, to be fair. You know, Frimpong's certainly lightning quick. Ekatike will be no slouch either. So, but yeah, I knew you were joking about Maguire, mate. Nobody wants to be buying Maguire. Itachi said, during last season, I never ever thought that Isak could join us this season. Wow, we're building something big. Yep, it's incredible and unprecedented in my opinion. And I think when the numbers are all said and done at the end of the transfer window, when we sit down and we talk the net spendometer, I think people will be pleasantly surprised when we compare our net spend at the end of this window to our peers and the clubs in and around us. I don't think it's going to look as sensational as some people are trying to make out now with Liverpool basically going into debt is what I've heard from some people, where there's no debt happening here. Liverpool are spending their own money, and the ability to access this money is because of us cutting our cloth accordingly before. Fritz, how are we, dude? Nunez is better than Sesko, in my humble opinion. Maybe. But I don't think either of them will be wearing a Liverpool shirt come the start of the season. Any Ben Doak news? Nothing new, Antoine. Lots of clubs interested in him. Nottingham Forest had an interest in him. Crystal Palace have an interest in him. I'm not sure if Everton's interest is gone at this point, but there are certainly clubs that would be willing to pay the 20-25 million that Liverpool will be asking for. I just, again, think Liverpool are focusing on getting the big business done so far, and I would expect a whole influx of outgoings at the end of the window. Like some really quick moves out, like Tyler Morton's information today is an example, probably the start of some of this process. So let me just talk about Tyler Morton here for a second. So, firstly, it was Paul Joyce who said, Leon have contacted Liverpool over signing Tyler Morton. He went on then to say, that Lyon have tabled a bid for Tyler Morton, but it remains below Liverpool's asking price, which would be in excess of £10 million. So doesn't go to say what the bid is, but less than the 10 million, obviously, by the looks of it. You were 7 out of 10 for Isak yesterday, said Jacob. How about today? I've probably gone a little bit higher, Jacob, in all honesty, mate. If you look at it right and try to be objective, which is difficult when you're a Liverpool fan and you're in these situations, but if you try to be objective about it and step back and look at it, we've got a player who's doing his part, making it clear. He feels he's been denied an opportunity. He feels that the promises of new deals in the past didn't come to fruition. And he feels annoyed that Liverpool's initial approach was rebuffed and then we went and signed Ekitike. So he's doing his part. Then you've got Newcastle looking to bring in a couple of forwards. Now, they always needed one because they lost Callum Wilson. But that was going to be somebody around the 25, 30 million pound bracket. Somebody like a Johan Visa. Then you see the big target, which is now like the Benjamin Sesko, the Nicholas Jackson. And that tells a tale. That, and I've seen a lot of journalists jump on something that I mentioned as well. Not crediting me for it. I mean, have a similar thought process to something I said, which was Eddie Howe saying, I know a footballer's career is short. That was a signal to me of Eddie Howe almost letting us know that it's going to happen. So all these things around the likes of Craig Hope from the Daily Mail, the Newcastle correspondent, speaking about how much Isak wants to move. I know Eddie Howe has said it's still possible to reintroduce or reintegrate a player into the squad, and it is, to be fair to him. There's been far worse situations that have ended with a player staying at a club, but I just don't see it, especially if Sesko happens. I think then, once that deal's agreed, you'll see Liverpool start to move. Benjamin said, I can tell you now, brothers and sisters, Newcastle have given the green light for Isak to go. Bookmark this, it'll be below 130 and wages won't be astronomical. Well, I've never felt the wages were going to be as high as maybe the ones he was looking for there at Newcastle. But at the same time, whatever Liverpool are comfortable with, I'm fine with as well, because, they know what they can afford, not me. It's like chess this window, said Bill Ben. I hope we get Sesko. Eddie is only saying that until we get a striker in, said Valerian. Mate, look, I've said this so many times. If I'm Sesko, I'm running to Newcastle ahead of Manchester United at this moment in time. I know that winds up some United fans, and that genuinely isn't my intention. My intention is I think Newcastle, honestly, is a more attractive proposition right now. Good young manager. Not saying Amram isn't a good coach, but you've got ambitious owners who really haven't invested so heavily in the transfer market, not because of a lack of desire from the Saudi owners of Newcastle, it's because they're trying to stay within the PSR framework. And I've always given credit to Newcastle for that. They're in the Champions League. They won a trophy last season. They've got a great fan base. And I think if I'm Sesko, genuinely, I'd be going there over United right now. I know United are in a building phase, but how many rebuilding phases have they had at United so far? And they've gone very top heavy in this window, but there's still glaring holes in that squad that they have to fill. So, I just don't think United are there yet, and I don't think they're an attractive proposition really compared to the likes of a Newcastle. Could you hit an Isak celebration for us? No, not today, mate. Not today. I'm still trying to just calm down from all the frustration from earlier. I don't cope well when things aren't going well behind the scenes. It frustrates me. Not nobody else's fault, by the way. Sorry, just I get frustrated in these situations. Do you think that we planned originally to sign both Ekitike and Isak, or we only moved Ekitike because preferred to have one bird in the hand, maybe not two on the tree? It's a really good question, Nimrod. So there's two answers that I've been given when I've looked at this, talked about this, and inquired about this. One was that Liverpool have been long admirers of Ugo Ekitike, going back, let's say, January onwards under Arne. But do I think if Newcastle had have agreed to sell us Isak that we would have went for Ekitike? My gut feeling is no. But I couldn't tell you that categorically because I think maybe that was being teased to negotiate with Newcastle. You know, you sell us Isak and we know that you want to go after Ugo Ekitike, so we won't be a problem there. Again, some of this is a bit of a leap of faith, but I don't think so. I don't think we would have moved for Isak or Ekitike if we'd have gotten Isak, but you never know. My gut feeling is no, though. Carbon said, Craig, I'm so excited for the season. This is going to be a season to remember, not just for Liverpool, but for the league itself and other individual talent. There's pressure on us now. So for the first time in a very, very, very long time, we're going into a season as favourites for a league title. And favourites by a decent margin as well. And that carries with it some pressure. So yeah, really excited going into the season like yourself, Carbon, but we got to live up to the hype now because eyes are on us, scrutiny's going to be on us, and people are going to be ready to jump on any weakness. So I hope we hit the ground running and start fast this season. Isak buying new property in West Kirby peacefully after work. I don't know, but we'd seen the listing for his house to rent anyway up in Newcastle was just under $7,000 a month or something. If Isak and Gay sign Craig, won't be your starting 11 and formation. Love the channel, legend, keep up the good work. So again, difficult to talk about starting 11s because I really feel it's a horses for courses kind of scenario. But if you wanted me to pick an 11 off the top of my head, if they both came in, Alisson, Frimpong, honestly, it's a coin flip between Gay and Canade. I'd be more than happy with either one to partner Virgil, which is why I was relaxed about the Canade situation as well. Luvibu, good partnership with Virgil, but I don't think he's the finished article. So either or a centre back, and I'm sorry to sit in the fence with that one, but I'm genuinely okay with either. Virgil left centre back, Kirkes left back, midfield Gravenberch, McAllister, Verts, and then up top Salah right, Isak left. Probably expect us to start the season with Gakpo. Isak central, and probably expect the season to start with Gakpo on the left. But either way, even if we did that, just look at some of the options we'd have on the bench then. So you'd have either Marque or Canade on the bench. You'd have Bradley on the bench, Robbo on the bench, Ekitike on the bench. You'd have Szoboszlai on the bench. And I feel dirty leaving out Dominic Szoboszlai from that 11 because he looks incredible in pre-season. But these are the headaches that Arna's going to have to battle with. And they're good headaches. Morton said Sobbo is starting, in my opinion. Again, mate, I can't really argue with you on that. I just, something has to give. It's going to be impossible for us to get everybody into the team. And I think Alexis McAllister is such an important player that I'd always have him in any 11 or a best 11 if possible. But the point you've made about Szoboszlai, I totally get it. And I love Dominic Szoboszlai, but something has to give. We can only put 11 players in. Elmer, how are you, sir? Said buzzing as a Swede, been a fan of him since 2017. Well, thank you, Elmer. And if he comes in, mate, wow. I'm still astonished, dude, to be honest with you, with the window we're having. Yeah, it just feels like anything is possible this season. And if we bring in Isak as well, I'm also really excited to see that Arna seems to be backing young Rio. There's no talk really of a left-sided winger coming in. Even when I'm reading what the journalists are writing, a lot of the time they're saying, yeah, Gakpo will be starting and young Rio will be the backup. And that's really cool because Rio's clearly made a big impact on Arna as his trainee only. Szoboszlai is our most undroppable player. No, he's not. Not in my opinion. Now, look, what I would say to you is he's an integral part of the press. and there will be very few people that would work as hard out there and cover as much ground on that pitch as Dominic Szoboszlai. But in a three-man midfield, with Wirtz being the £116 million player, I don't see a world where we don't have Gravenberch and Wirtz in there, and then you're going to have a coin flip between McAllister and Szoboszlai. Something has to give. Mahmood, how are we, sir? Said, hey Craig, for the first time, Liverpool are entering a season without a shortage in a position. Also, Juve started talks with Nunez reps. So I'd seen the stuff from Juventus, Mahmood, around Darwin, but correct me if I'm wrong on this, dude. Their first choice was Randall Kolo Muani, and then they were looking at Darwin, but from what I'd read, unless something's updated, the initial talk was that they would look at a loan with an obligation to buy. Now, I don't know how Liverpool would feel about that proposal. I don't expect that they take it, but let's wait and see. But you're right about the interest. It's certainly been spoken about today. And without a shortage in the position, I would argue we have a shortage right now at centre-back. I think most people would probably agree with me on that one. You know, one more centre-back, some people still feel we'd still be a little bit short. But I do feel right now we have a shortage there. Right, so we're nearly at 3,000 votes, and it is so close. Who starts the season at right back? Jeremy Frimpong or Connor Bradley? When we get to 3,000 votes, we'll call it. But my goodness, this one is close. There is just 1%, well, 2%, 1% flip between them. So keep voting away. Nearly there. Just a couple more to go. Here we go. So, 51% of over 3,000 people that voted said that they would start Jeremy Frimpong. But you can see how close that was. It was 51-49, so really nothing in it. And I don't blame you guys for being uncertain of it, because I'm probably right in the middle as well. Kieran Mullen, how are we, sir? 24 months as a member, you big legend. Thank you for being with us, mate. Will Stefan Bajcetic stay? I won't lie, Kieran. I'm actually worried about Bajcetic now because he has not had the pre-season. And it was, in my opinion, vital for him to get a pre-season and show Arno what he can do this year. So I'm wondering, are we going to see another loan for Bajcetic at the minute? And I love him. I think he's a great player. But he had that hamstring operation at the end of the season or at the start of the summer. And he's been playing catch-up since. So, you know, if he hasn't had minutes, we know what Arna's like about players and fitness. Just even look at Federico when he came in. You know, he didn't get many minutes last season whatsoever, and Arna was always putting it down to rhythm and fitness. So it'd be difficult to make an argument of where Bajcetic will get those minutes. So maybe a loan. Certainly interest from La Liga in him anyway. I hope we don't sell him, though, unless there's a buyback clause. Danny said, hi Craig, what would your percentage be for Isak? $77, something like that. A little bit higher than my 7 out of 10 yesterday, so yeah, 75, 77%, something like that. Mahmood said, I wouldn't be surprised if we try Nunez for Isak. I would, for a couple of reasons. One, imagine Nunez exploded at Newcastle and start banging in a load of goals and it came back to haunt us. That wouldn't be great. Two, we don't know if Newcastle have an interest in Darwin or not, and we don't know if Darwin would have an interest in Newcastle or not. So I can see where you're going with it. I mean, I've spoken about Harvey Elliott as a potential make-weight as well in the past, but I know Newcastle, before we signed Darwin, had an interest in him, but I think they're focusing on Sesko, and if they get that over the line, then I think... Oh, there it goes again. I don't know if we're still live or not. Maybe you can tell me. Oh no, it's not as bad this time. It's not as bad. I think we're still live. It's just booted out my end, but yeah. It was quicker this time. It was a bit of a different one than the last time. Yeah, cool. Where was I with that one? So yeah, I don't know if they'd have an interest. Sorry, is where I was going with that one, Mahmood. David said, fully confident for the Champions League, but not for the league. Don't know why. Is it weird, David, that I'm the other way, bro? I'm fully confident for the league and not for the Champions League. But I get the feeling there's a real appetite in the club for Arna and the boys for a Champions League now. But I also, and I said this yesterday, I think Arsenal's best chance of a big trophy between the Champions League and the Prem is probably the Prem. So the start of the season is going to be important because, you know, we've got some tricky fixtures early doors as well. I accidentally clicked Frimpong, said Jack. Jack's the problem, everybody. That was the 1%, Jack. You ruined it, bro. All good, my man. We'll call it 50-50. Gabriel said Arsenal will win the league and we'll win the Champions League. I wonder how they'd react to that, Arsenal fans. What do you reckon? If that came, do you reckon they'd be magnanimous and gracious about it, or do you reckon they'd still try to make out like they were they'd somehow had the better achievement? Because I would say winning both of them was, you know, either one or the other, a brilliant achievement and certainly something to be celebrated. I'd seen a poll that somebody put up earlier on asking who the most deluded fan base was, and it was like Arsenal, United, us, and Real Madrid. And honestly, it was a landslide. Like 86% of the people or something that had voted in it went for Arsenal as the most deluded fan base. We only had like 3%, something like that, which was a pleasant surprise. Craig, what trophy would you rather, the Prem or the Champions League? I kind of changed depending on the season. Like, I used to always tell myself that I was a Champions League person and that was the one. But now I've had a little taste of seeing the Reds lifting up that Premier League title. I also understand the bread and butter argument about that being a model of consistency across the season. Because I've seen Liverpool teams win Champions Leagues that I wouldn't even say we were the best team in Europe. You know, I think we grounded out, had a bit of luck along the way, and we had Steven Gerrard. So, I think this year I'd say league for two reasons. One, the back-to-back aspect of it. It would remove any nonsense about us getting lucky or the league being weak or any of the other stuff that people have tried to throw at us. And also it would push us one clear at that point as well. And then we would be out on our own again. So, but for the first time ever, I feel that both are possible. Now, I'm not saying we'll do it because I don't think anybody can make that prediction. But honestly, I feel like anything is possible this year. 2 trophies, 1 trophy, 3 trophies. The only failure will come is if we don't lift something. That would be a failure. You know, we've gone into other seasons saying, look, we'll take top 4 place, a good run in the Champions League and, you know, see how we get on in the domestic cups. But right now I feel like you have to win it. You have to win a big trophy this year. You know, the pressure's on. And with what we spent, the expectation's going to be up a little bit as well. Adrian said, Craig, I made you an offer on X. I'm not on there personally, bro, so I will ask one of our team to have a look at it if that's okay, because I don't even have the password, believe it or not, to our X account. You said you were after a signed Mike Tyson glove as a gift, as a thank you for your service. Oh, dude. No, I couldn't ask you to give me a signed Mike Tyson glove, Adrian. That's too generous, mate. You're right, though. It is the one thing I said I was missing from my memorabilia collection that I'd always wanted was a pair of signed Tyson shorts or a Tyson glove. But happy to buy it off you, Adrian. You know, I wouldn't expect you to give it to me, mate. You know, I'm sure it cost you money as well. But if you want to reach out to me via email, contact@AnfieldAgenda.com, Adrian. I promise you, mate, I'll respond quickly, and you're an absolute star, mate. That's so kind. If we get Isak and Gay, invincible season possible. Keep up the good work, my man. So I might be weirdly on my own here, but if you were to talk about what is the best Premier League season ever, I'm saying Man City's. I know Arsenal are the only team that have ever gone unbeaten in the league, and that is an incredible achievement that I'm certainly not meaning to downplay. But I think the best season is whoever puts the most points on the board, and that's Manchester City's 101 points tally. To me, that's the best season in the Premier League. Yeah, so that's the way I'd look at it. But an invincible would be great, but I'd still rather win the league with more points than Manchester City got would be a bigger achievement in my eyes than going 100 points was it than going invincible. You know, the most points is the most important in my eyes. I honestly believe Darwin stays too. Mad, I know, but I think he stays now. Some of the journals are talking up Darwin, but no takers. Not sure where he goes. I don't think Rodrigo comes in. So Darwin, as I've always said to you guys, there's Saudi money and Saudi offers that will come in for Darwin. I totally understand what you're saying about the journals, Benjamin, because I read it out earlier on. Was it Lewis Steele? One of the gents, him or Ben Jacobs, was talking about how great Darwin was looking. And to be honest with you, mate, he has. We talked about this the other day. He's looked really good. Any training footage I've seen, he looks sharp. But there's no pressure on there. It's different when you're on the pitch and there's points at stake. Saltman said, thoughts on keeping Nunez as a left wing option? He was fire there for Benfica. I'd hate to see him go. I get where you're coming from. There were times actually in, I think, maybe his first season where I liked Darwin off the left. I thought that he found a bit more space there because he could use the channel, whereas in behind he wasn't really getting the same space to run into. But I can't be anything but honest. I'm done with Darwin, and I want the saga to be over because it's tough constantly trying to believe again, only for that to be short-lived and the same frustrations to be there, the same offsides to be there, the same misses to be there, the same lack of focus to be there. I just don't see it working. And I also very, very, very confident he leaves. Arsenal fans and Arteta voting for themselves in the most delusional poll because it's the only thing they can win. I'm not against the Cal. I'm not against the bro. Right, so let's ask on Darwin. We did this the other night, and it was 2/3 in one direction, but let's ask it again. So we'll ask it again, give you another chance to vote. Should we keep Darwin Nunez? Now, if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to stay on for another 20 minutes or so because I'm not putting out a live video tonight because the stream messed up earlier on and things ran a little bit late. So I'm going to stay on a little bit longer if everyone's okay to stick with me. So again, another here we go that we got from Romano earlier on, just in case you missed it, was Aaron Ramsdale to Newcastle. Here we go. Deal in place with Southampton for the goalkeeper. Can I get a 20-sec recap? Yeah, Webster, give me 2 minutes, bro. Buy option included in the deal. Heavy loan fee, which we believe is £4 million for Ramsdale. And he'll travel for his medical. So look, I'll do as Webster has suggested there and run through the news for you. And I'll try to cut out the parts that are now old, so bear with me. Right, so earlier on, Transfer Sector posted, say Ollie Watkins is now Manchester United's first choice striker target with Newcastle in pole position to sign Sesko. After that, we had a report from Lewis Steele, which has obviously been clarified by many journalists, to say Alisson has departed Liverpool's pre-season camp in Japan and will play no further part in the tour due to personal matter. Now, I don't know what that personal matter is, but of course, I'm sure everybody hopes that whatever it is, it's nothing too serious. There have already been some reports to suggest he will meet back up with the squad when they're back from the pre-season tour and that he should be in contention for the game against Athletic Club Bilbao. Then we had Linda Pichuti accidentally leaking the training footage when she put a behind-the-scenes image up of Mohamed Salah and Virgil van Dijk being interviewed. Lewis Steele, reporting from Liverpool's training today, said Ekitike and Wirtz were playing as a front two in Liverpool's training. Sacha Tavolieri said Liverpool have reached an agreement over a 5-year deal with Alexander Isak. A bid of £100 million will be submitted, and the Reds hope to reach a deal for around £120 million. Next up, we had Alexander Isak has been left out of Newcastle's new kit launch, reported the Newcastle Chronicle. Lewis Steele said a noticeable part of Liverpool's open training session was the sheer intensity. It was 36 or 37 degrees Celsius, and the players were still racing and sprinting around. The intensity they were bringing for a training session was mental. He also said Darwin Nunez looked incredible in training and looked every part the £80 million or so striker that Liverpool bought. Next up, we had a report from Graham Bailey that said Alexander Isak has gone AWOL. The Swedish striker isn't at Newcastle's training ground. The situation has now reached the point where the striker has gone absent without leave. That was backed up by Alex Crook, who said Alexander Isak has been conspicuous by his absence from Newcastle's training ground since dropping the bombshell that he's seeking a move away from the club. Doubts over his future emerged when he was spotted training alone and subsequently being left out of the pre-season tour to Singapore with a thigh injury in inverted commas. Isak has not been spotted by film crews outside the club's Darsley Park training complex since. It is thought the superstar Swede is following his only training programme at home while Newcastle decide whether to cash in. Next up, we had Graham Bailey saying Liverpool are preparing a record offer for Alexander Isak as he begins to force the issue at Newcastle. Liverpool have informed Newcastle they're willing to pay more than £120 million. Then we had the here we go from Romano over Liverpool signing Will Wright from Salford. Not signed yet, I should say, agreeing the deal for Will Wright, who will now undergo his medical. Ian Doyle has said Liverpool are considering making a £130 million bid for Alexander Isak. Next up, we had Paul Joyce saying that Lyon have contacted Liverpool over a signing of Tyler Morton. Goes on to say that the offer is less than Liverpool's asking price, which would be in excess of £10 million. Craig Hope of the Daily Mail said Alexander Isak doubts the club's ambitious project due to perceived boardroom failures and a lack on delivery of promises. Like I said before, when Amanda Staveley was there, he was promised a new contract, didn't come to fruition. When Paul Mitchell was there was talk of a new contract, didn't come to fruition. And I mentioned this before, Eddie Howe seems to be kind of trying to do a bit of everything at the minute at Newcastle, and they're not really moving forward as quickly as Newcastle fans and even the board seemingly want. Then we had Ben Jacobs saying that Arsenal offered a higher fee to Salford and a higher package to Will Wright, but the player was sold on the Liverpool project. Next, Ben Jacobs for Anything Liverpool said, or Anything LFC, excuse me, if Liverpool can't convince Marquet of game time, the defender's prepared to run down his contract and pick a club after the World Cup. A report from Anfield Edition crediting A.D. Jones said Tyler Morton is open to a move to Lyon in an attempt to revive his career. Speaking about Malik Fofana, Ben Jacobs, again with our friends at Anything Liverpool on their YouTube channel, said the player is looking to play Champions League football. Not impossible regarding discussing a deal involving both Malik Fofana and Tyler Morton with interest in both players. That would be an interesting one, by the way. Ben Jacobs, again, sticking with our friends at Anything Liverpool, said this £150 million number that's been bandied around has never been noted to Newcastle. Newcastle's recruitment team have never been empowered to go out and request that number from Liverpool. Then we had Liverpool owner Fenway Sports Group in talks with Getafe president Angel Torres about a staged takeover that would add the La Liga club to its portfolio of teams. That's pretty much you up to date with what I've got anyway at this moment. Right, a couple of super chats I need to go through. This one from Jack. Would have said to keep if it wasn't for Isak, but nah, said Jack. Thank you, Jack. Tom Swift said, hi Craig, thoughts on deploying Ekitike left wing at the start of games, then transition to two up front while Milos replaces him and Grav replaces Milos. So there's definitely a possibility that we see Ugo Ekitike played out on the left-hand side. I think a hint of this was when Ekitike himself spoke about the versatility that he feels he has as a forward. You know, he can carry the ball, he can get in behind, he can play wide or left. So I think that versatility is going to be key, especially when, and if I should say, Alexander Isak comes in. But you're right, Tom, he could absolutely drift out to the left. Roy Gang said, Darwin to stay. I don't see him leaving, not this season. So all I can say is my information was, and always has been that Darwin's leaving this summer because Arne doesn't trust. And we'll see by the end of the window if he stays. Look, it's another option for Liverpool to have, but I wouldn't be expecting him to stay. That's all I can continue to say. Premier League more important than Champions League this year, number 21 plus the money. Well, if you get to Champions League in the next few years, you also have your pathway through to the next Club World Cup and the money that comes with that as well. But I understand completely, mate, where you're coming from, D-Thug, with the 21. That's a very fair point. So, should we keep Darwin Nunez? That's what the poll is at the minute. So far, it's reflecting the vote the other day as well. Carbon said, I think we might end up playing a 4-2-1-3. When finishing the game, we play a 4-4-2, diamond wide, and I do think we're going for the quad. Well, look, the word from Arne was that he wants to assemble a squad to compete for every trophy. That was the gaffer's words at the end of last season, and I think it's fair to say, Carbon, we're certainly doing that. We're trending in the direction where that's possible. If Chiesa is going and Lucho and Jota, can we afford to lose Nunez as well? Yes. So here's the way I look at it. We didn't have Chiesa last year, right? We did, but we didn't, if you get me. Like, he wasn't utilised, didn't get minutes, was just on the bench and the manager wasn't giving him a chance. So if we can just say for 1 second that we're not going to lose many minutes there if Chiesa moves on, I think we should agree on that. Not saying we don't like him, not saying he shouldn't have got more chances, but if we're looking at it from minutes in the squad from last season, we're not losing a lot of minutes there. So then you've got the very fair question about Diogo and Darwin and Diaz. But Rio is going to be the next guy on the left-hand side with Cody. Ugo Ekitike can drift there. And if Isak comes in, then you've replaced the two strikers with Ekitike and Isak. And Rio is the backup on the left. So I don't think we're screwing ourselves because Chiesa wasn't somebody getting minutes last season. So 3 for 3 is the way I kind of look at it in my head. But again, that's just my thought process. Chiesa should play more. Why is Slot not playing him? I'll never know the answer to that question, mate. And the best I can come up with is maybe he wasn't an Arne signing. And again, I've nothing to base that off, but he wasn't on the pre-season tour. We've seen that. He did play in the Stoke game, then didn't go on the tour. There's also been lots of stuff from Romano to talk about the fact that Chiesa's working to try and get a move. Now, we know that Atalanta are interested, and if they can sell Ademola Lookman to Inter Milan, who I believe are bidding for him, then that would see them move for Federico Chiesa. So, again, it looks like he'll go as well. Valerian said Gakpo is quality. Gakpo has looked so good in all the training footage I've seen. Really sharp, really on it. And I really think he's ready to take that step up now. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Cody Gakpo, and what I've seen so far this summer, he's looking sharp. Michael Andrews said, I always felt like Arne was scared of him getting a big injury and was babying him into games too much. Not sure. I really just don't know. And we may never know why he was signed, why he didn't play. It's just one of those head scratchers for me. You all need to keep in mind we're currently at 18 non-homegrown, so we need to sell 2 to make room for Isak. Is that right? Because obviously Diogo passed. We're about to sell Diaz. So I'm not sure. We should have some spaces freed up. Now, I know we brought in Ugo Ekitike, and Florian Wirtz, but we're going to sell Darwin. I'm just trying to think of other non-homegrown players that could move this summer. So one in, and that's why Mark Gay maybe becomes the other possibility. So if Darwin goes out and Isak comes in, that's, a non-homegrown for a non-homegrown. And then if you brought in Mark Gay, then that, puts up your homegrown quota there as well. So, and Tsimikas, yes, Costas could leave as well. That's a good shout. And if Costas goes, that could be another space freed up. We've all lost close friends in life. In my situation, my best friend at 17 many years ago, I remember like it was yesterday. Darwin is on a mission this year. It doesn't matter what club. He certainly looks zoned in, Ed. He looks dialed in this season. But like I said, I'm ready to move on from Darwin, but until he's sold, he's every right to be coached, training, playing in and around the boys, and he looks like he's in good form as well. So let's just wait and see. But thank you, mate. And I'm sorry to hear about your friend as well, Ed. That must be very difficult, especially at 17. Who replaces the Kwanzaa homegrown spot? You don't need to replace a homegrown spot. So the way to think about this is, if you want to have a maximum 25 player squad, the most you can have is 18 non-homegrown, or is it 17 non-homegrown and eight homegrown? But you don't have to have the full complement of homegrown. There's no nothing to say you have to have that full complement. It just means you can't register the extra bodies if you don't have the full complement. Can Darwin play in the wing? More depth because his work rate is class and he can't finish. But he's not as good as Cody Gakpo on the wing. He's not as good as young Rio was going to be on the wing. Let's not forget that here. Rio is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And he's coming through now. And Gakpo is probably going to be the starter for the season. But Rio he's a huge talent. And I'm a bit sad to see Diaz go. Like I mentioned, he's always done well for us on the pitch. Feels like a good deal for everybody involved, and Liverpool clearly feel like they can cope without him as well. Craig, you're definitely not doing tomorrow's watch along. 100% not, David. No, it's. I need to get sleep, mate. I'm working really, really hard as it is, and interrupting another sleep pattern just doesn't work for me. So yeah, I'm gonna sit out tomorrow's watch along, but I will be back for the double header Monday, and of course for the Community Shield as well before the season starts. What about Doak? Nothing new with regards to a bid, but Nottingham Forest and Crystal Palace will be my two suggestions to keep an eye on for Ben Doak. Amid interest, I mean, because obviously Alanga gone from Forest, and Palace, well, they need to bring in players as well. Don't want to wear Rio out with too many minutes, still 17. Yeah, I don't remember anybody saying that about Lamine Yamal, though. I get where you're coming from, by the way, but football these days, kids are just coming through a bit earlier, aren't they? Like, see, Arsenal had a 15-year-old out there the other night as well, doing really well in pre-season. And, Yamal has shown that if you're good enough, you're old enough. Craig, is your message on WhatsApp about Isak bid true? No, I just love to lie to everybody, Stephen, and just put random shit in there that would ruin my reputation for no reason. Yes, mate. And look, I've read out not only what I've said, but I've read out Ian Doyle. I'll read it out for you again now, just in case you missed it. But Sacha Tavolieri said Liverpool about to make a bid 1 to 120. Ian Doyle said Liverpool. Where is the exact comment from Ian Doyle so I don't misquote? Sorry, I just want to get the right here. Liverpool are considering making a £130 million bid for Alexander Isak. I said ready to make the bid. I didn't say Liverpool had made a bid of £130 million, but the money is there and ready. But everything is contingent on Newcastle getting Sesko. Because if they don't get their big striker in, be it Sesko, Nicholas Jackson, they're not going to sell Isak. So you'll see the movement as soon as Newcastle get a breakthrough in their search for a striker. Lucky Charm said, I would fancy Rodrigo on loan to replace Salah, quality dribbler. When that started to do the rounds late last night, that kind of chatter around a possible loan with an obligation for Rodrigo, it certainly caught my attention. But a couple of the journalists reading today have had a similar thought process. The overall package for Rodrigo just feels like it would be too high. If you take into account his wages as well over the 5-year contract, let's say, it'd be a very big package. If Malik Fofana isn't committed to a move to Everton or somewhere else, he would seem like a far more sensible option for Liverpool to look for a young wide player, particularly if Leon have that interest in Tyler Morton as well. Don't want to sound bad, but I hope everything goes wrong for Trent over in Spain. I have my own shithousery thoughts on how I'd like that to go for him as well. So I'm convinced it won't work out well for him, but I've always had that belief from going over there. It's not just based out of bitterness, and look, there is some bitterness, I'll admit that as well. Brian said, Craig, I seen a vid the other day saying that Rio is going to be the next even better than players like Mbappe and that. Well, do you remember when we got Rio and he was leaving Cobham and Chelsea to come to us? They banned Liverpool scouts from going to watch their games for their underage teams, and they really, 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 really kicked up a fuss because they did not want to lose him. But to the best of my understanding, young Rio has been a Liverpool fan growing up and loved the idea of coming to play for us and is about to sign his first professional deal. So an undoubted talent, and I'm excited to see him. But I really respect and understand the comments from people as well who are worried about too much too soon, or, overplaying a kid who will be finished then at 26, 27. Totally respect and understand where people are coming from on that, but sometimes you just can't keep a talent back, Sometimes if a player's just ready, they're ready. He was a United fan. Swear I seen him in Liverpool kits. Now look, if I'm wrong on that, I'm wrong, but I swear I seen young Rio in Liverpool kits when he was even younger. Have a Google of it, maybe you'll be able to find it yourself, but I just have a recollection of seeing it in the last month or two. Morning, Craig from Kangaroo Flat. Sorry about the typo. Well, Sam, I eventually figured out, mate, that was in Australia and it was a place. So lovely to have you in again, Sam, and I hope things are good for you. When will a here we go come from Fabrizio about Isak, if I would guess? Again, I think it's all linked to Newcastle getting a deal in place for Sesko. Once Newcastle know that's happening, I think then the ability to move on Sesko or Isak is there. You wouldn't want, if we were in Newcastle shoes here, you certainly wouldn't want our club selling a striker before you get another one. Especially the guy. So I think it'll all come down to Newcastle agreeing a deal for Sesko. What's your favourite Dire Straits song? Romeo and Juliet's a Dire Straits song, isn't it? That one, if that's the case. I love the Killers cover of it, to be honest with you, but I think it's a Dire Straits song. Why not keep him on then? A man on a mission to prove he's worthy of the talents God has given him. Because he's not good enough, Ed, is why he wouldn't keep him on. An attempt to honour his brother, who the Lord called back. Look, mate, I respect your religious beliefs. I'm not a religious person, so I'm certainly not going to belittle you for having religious beliefs. But Darwin has had 3 years to do it at Liverpool and hasn't done it. And I can't tell you why that has happened, but I don't expect anything to change. And I just don't think Darwin's good enough for us. But appreciate and respect where you're coming from, but the Lord and the God stuff doesn't hold any sway with me, man, because I'm not a religious person, but I respect that you are. Right, so we're nearly at 2,000 votes. So if you haven't voted, you can answer the question, should we keep Darwin Nunez? Harm said, I'm starting to feel greedy. I wouldn't be 100% satisfied if we got out of this incredible window without a centre-back. Oh, I get you. I get you. Totally agree. The centre-back thing we got to get sorted. I think we will, and I'm relaxed about it, but you're all 100% right. It's a glaring deficiency. Love you lot. Keep it a big what's up from New York, or from NC, sorry. And much love to you as well, Ed. And I certainly, respect and admire your faith. I've just never been a personally religious person, dude, but I often look at envy at people who are very deep in their faith, because I'm sure it provides a lot of comfort in difficult times, where sometimes I'm searching for that, I guess. Just never been a really religious person, but appreciate you, man. Love you too, so thank you for your kind words. Right, I'm going to start wrapping this up. Let's see if we can get to the 2,000 votes. Reese, thank you, bro. Appreciate you, my man. Thank you, Reese LFC. Thank you, sir. Didn't Ivan say it's agreed between Newcastle and Liverpool? Not sure, Aaron, to be honest with you, mate. I haven't really been seeing what's been posted on X, as I mentioned. I only get a few screenshots in Discord and stuff. I'm not actually on the platform myself. Houston, Texas in the house. David Toner, how are we, dude? Welcome in. Lovely to have you. Always wanted to visit Texas, man. Always. Right, we only need 30 more votes to get to 2,000 in the Darwin Nunez poll. Always loved your content, mate. Up the Reds. Gentleman Leon, thank you. I love your name, by the way. I had a friend growing up called Leon as well, so appreciate you, man. Love your support. Thank you. And Keith Henderson as well. Hope you're well, brother. Thank you for dropping in. Appreciate your support as well. Right, we're nearly there. We're just 15 votes away now. 10 votes away. And we'll get to the 2,000. Nearly there. Nearly there. There we go. Right, so with 2,000 votes now up, we can say that the results were pretty much as they were the other day. In fact, I think these might be the exact same numbers. The other day we had the same vote, and it was like this, 60-something% no, we shouldn't keep, or should we keep them, 60-something% no, and 30-something% yes. So still about 2/3 of the people voting there, just under 2/3, want them to move on. Corbin said, I wanted to take a second to thank Lucho for his time. Yeah, and I will do the very same, mate, once the move is confirmed. Certainly will be including it in the video as well. Sometimes players move on for other motivations. Diaz, clearly a financial one here, and look, that's cool. There's no bad feeling for me on this. It's a deal that is working for everybody. Bayern are getting a player that they need. Liverpool are getting a fee they feel comfortable with for a player who has done well for us. And Diaz is getting a move on a bigger pay packet. So, yeah, it's just, it is what it is, There's no need, there's no, there's no need for bitterness in it. It's just a genuine footballing transition. And George, how are we, dude? Curtis needs to step it up. Serious competition now. Yes, sir. Very much so. And he really is, because Vert's coming in there now. Szoboszlai ahead of him as well. But let's wait and see what happens with Curtis this season. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to say goodnight, and I'm going to go grab myself some dinner. Remember, I won't be doing the watch along in the morning. So I will see you guys video at 4:30. Late night agenda tomorrow night as always, and the late night news roundup. And thank you all for putting up with me earlier on. From what was a really frustrating first attempt at the stream, but sure, we got there in the end. And if you can, hit that like button before you head off, and I will see you soon.